Thanks again for being here, everyone. My name is Whitney Ziegler. I'm the founder and CEO of Big Rocks Organizing. We are a small, local to Portland professional organizing and senior move management company. We are proud to be LGBTQ plus owned and woman owned. And thank you for joining us. This is our monthly series called Ask the Organizer. And our theme for 2025 is organizing and right-sizing room by room. So this month we are tackling living rooms and dining rooms. We're going to talk a lot about setting up systems because these rooms tend to be multifunctional. They tend to be powerhouses in the home. They get a lot of traffic and a lot of stuff. And sometimes there's some confusion about setting up systems, and they tend to be catch-alls where things kind of get dumped as we come in the door. Things pile up on the dining room table. I'm sure none of you has ever experienced this challenge. So we're going to talk about all these things today. We would love to have questions from you too. We want this to be interactive. We want you to get a lot out of it. So please feel free to ask questions along the way. We are starting in the living room today. I'd like to introduce Jess Cavanis, our operations manager, Karen Asnes, who is our assistant professional organizer, and then Jocelyn Bureau, thank you for being our videographer behind the camera today. All right, thanks for your patience, everyone. I think our tech is all set. I'm going to turn it over to Jess and Karen, so please take it away.
All right, hello everybody. So we are currently standing in a very organized, tidy living room. However, let's say we had a family living here. You know, a lot of people have different uses in their living room. We'll talk about the dining room a little bit as well, because those tend to be the two rooms that are multifunctional if you don't have like a separate office or a separate playroom, things like that. So really, this room has a lot of space in it, right? There's some big furniture. However, there's still corners where we could set up zones for different things. So for instance, Sharon likes to do her sewing in the dining room, which probably because there's better light, which is going to play a factor, I'm sure. However, this whole back corner here, we could be using for a little play area. We could have like storage furniture for kids, which comes in really handy. A lot of folks don't have a playroom, and there winds up being overflow of toys from the kids' room. So one way to address it would be to just have a corner in the living room and, you know, like a little storage, what we call a toy box, but some of them look a little bit nicer, like more like furniture, but still safe for little fingers. Could also have like a sewing corner, a craft corner. You could put a fold down table over there.
Could be an office corner as well.
You could have an office corner as well. Like in my place, I have a little nook right off of my living room, and that's where my office is, which is just separate enough to not feel like I'm at work when I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. But one thing to keep in mind, especially if you have a family or a bunch of folks living in the house with you, is that the living room can become a dumping ground for things like for toys and books, and people come in and they throw their hat and their coat on the couch, and everything just stays there for the rest of the week. So one tip I would like to give for folks who do encounter that issue is you could consider having either one big basket, or if you have, let's say, 3 kids in the house, 3 little baskets in your living room. And at the end of the week, everybody gathers all of their things from the living room that do not belong in the living room, puts it in the basket, and then they can be put away. So yeah, perfect size bin. Hopefully we're not leaving mountains like laundry basket size bin of stuff in the living room. But really the first thing you want to do when you're thinking about your living room is decide what function it's going to serve. Is it just where you're going to watch TV? Is it, like I said, where you're going to have a play area? You're going to be an office in the living room. That kind of helps you plan out the way you set up the space, furniture wise, storage wise. Let's say you do crafts in your living room. It's helpful to maybe have a storage ottoman with some bins in it with your craft supplies so they could tuck away when you're done. What am I forgetting? Nothing. I never forget
Have a
anything.
little yoga corner back there too, a little fitness area.
Yep. My whole living room is my yoga studio. I don't have enough space for separation, but you know, I do have like all my little yoga props in the corner with my yoga mats rolled up out of the way when they're not in use. I'm not blessed with a space this big, so for those of you that have a huge living room that can serve multiple functions, congratulations.
Just need to hit pause for just a moment. We got a request through the chat to see if we could turn the camera horizontal. Is that a possibility?
Let's find out.
There we
All
go.
right.
Is that good, Kathy?
Can you still see us?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can.
but it's a pretty big space. Like we have a TV over in this corner, which you can't see. There's two chairs over here on this side, and then you have this nice big couch, a fireplace. And then still have all that space over there for other stuff. And honestly, you could even make a play area over there and put a desk over on the other wall. There's so much space to work with in here.
Just like a lot of people have a coffee table in front of their couch. How do you feel about coffee table styling, coffee table books? What do you keep there and what do you avoid keeping there?
So again, we want to ideally only keep the things in the living room that live in the living room. I don't personally have a coffee table because I like to have ottomans across the whole couch and be able, everybody can put their feet up. But I am a big fan of storage furniture, especially if you do other tasks in the living room or have kids. There are like tons of storage ottomans that you can have and just put a tray on top to hold drinks or what have you. There are also coffee tables that are super cool that have storage in them. And they also, the top of the whole coffee table comes up and over. So if you do have to work in your living room, you don't have an office, you also don't have space for a desk. That's another solution to work at your couch. I love coffee table books. I have them on my end table. I don't have a coffee table. But really, we want to try to avoid cluttering our spaces where we're trying to relax. So anything beyond books or remote controls, ideally we want to keep us.
And we talked about, especially when we're helping people move, about like how the space needs to change in terms of accessibility. So sometimes a coffee table is too close to get people in a chair or walker around to the spaces. How do you decide how to make a space accessible?
Yeah, so it depends what the space is being used for and who is using it, but we, do hit periods in life where accessibility becomes a problem, right? Maybe we have to use a walker now and our furniture setup doesn't work. So really it could be as simple as just taking the walker, walking through the space, seeing where your sticking points are and trying to shift the furniture so that it works for you still. We always obviously want to try to avoid tripping hazards. Rugs on top of rugs are a peeve of mine with folks that have mobility issues because they flip right up and you can trip over them pretty easily. So that's another thing to keep an eye out for. Depending on what kind of disability you're talking about, there's companies we could recommend if this is ever an issue for anyone that can come and put handrails in if they're needed throughout the space. But otherwise having big, heavy pieces of furniture that somebody could hold on to if they feel like they're going to lose their balance.
Yeah.
Try not to have anything like a very light chair that if somebody is a little tipsy, they're going to grab, the chair goes down, they go down with it. How to avoid.
We also want to keep 36-inch or 3-foot wide pathways, if possible, for clearance. We also want to think about lighting, like task lighting can be really great for our eyes as we get older. So having plenty of light available so we're not straining our eyes. Making sure cords aren't tripping hazards. We see that pretty often.
Yeah, so I'm curious if folks that are in the chat there and want to chime in, like, do you have other things that you do in your living room? Do you have a multi-purpose living room? Are there any sticking points that we're not talking about that we can help you with?
I know I live with roommates, so our living room is kind of used for a lot of things. People are like practicing their instruments or working from home or just hanging out, having different people over. And it definitely helps if people kind of have their own, if they can bring their stuff back and forth to the space in an easy way. So it's not just everywhere all the time, but also having like dedicated bins and things where stuff can go away and just be in the space as long as there is nothing for it.
Do you have zones for everything, or does everybody pretty much bring their stuff in and then bring their stuff out?
I think if they use that, if it's something that they use in multiple spaces, they'll bring it in and bring it out. But like we keep, there's books and there's games that we would play in the store, in the, on a bookshelf, and there's certain things that maybe people use over and over again in the space, in a drawer or.
Mhm.
We did get a comment or question in the chat that the biggest challenge is keeping the coffee table surface clear. Can you two please talk about surfaces being clutter magnets and some ideas and strategies for keeping them clear?
Sure. So it certainly depends on what is being dropped there. I think paper tends to be a problem for folks. So, you know, you come in, you grab the mail on your way in, you sit down on the couch, you throw the mail on the coffee table, and then it sits there for the rest of the week. So I'm a big fan when it comes to paper of addressing things as soon as they come in. I suggest usually having like a 3-tier tray where you can have unopened mail, things you need to file, things that need action. And this way it comes in, it goes where it needs to be, and then it gets put away, shred, junk mail. Strongly also suggest to everyone that you get on the National Do Not Mail Registry list to at least slow the amount of junk mail coming into the house. But I think it's also important to talk to the folks in your household about cleaning up after themselves, because coffee tables by the end of a day will have 3 empty cans of soda and 2 coffee mugs and a pile of paper and somebody's gloves. So I really think just staying on top of it on a daily basis is helpful. However, that can be challenging for folks. So that's why I suggest if there are multiple people in the house, that everybody has a little bin. And at the end of the week or at the end of the day, if that's your preference, everybody puts things in their little bin, clears the space, and then nobody has to look at the clutter. But if there's any specific kind of things that are piling up, do chime in. But I think that tends to be what winds up on the coffee table.
Yeah. Yeah, a surface is a dangerous thing.
Mhm.
Any kind of surface.
Look, an empty surface, and we cover it with things.
I will say, like, when you were saying address the mail and stuff right away, like I kind of think about it as a game where I try to get as much as possible into the recycle immediately, or like out of my usable space. So like I don't need the envelope, I don't need the junk mail for this. And especially like I think we see a lot of times people have those like subscription services, and like a box comes to your house with all this stuff, and that's cool. But if the stuff stays in the box and it has, you know, the little, like, what would you call that, Easter grass type
Mhm.
stuff, and it's got all this, then it's oftentimes it seems like people don't make use of the things, and then it's, you know, taking up this much space as opposed to like this one cool thing that for my dog, or soap
Mhm.
that I can put in the place and use it. So I feel like that kind of mindset for me of just figuring out like what can get out and
Yeah.
playing with it is very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the easiest way is to not start piling things on the surface and address things as soon as they come into the home. You go to the store, you buy backup cleaning supplies. They go right into the cleaning cabinet or under the sink or wherever you keep them. But that's in a perfect world, right? We don't live in a perfect world. To that note, though, I would like to suggest, because I see a lot folks that have subscription boxes like to BarkBox or, you know, Snack Service or whatever the case may be, and we see these boxes just pile month after month with the things still in them. So I would implore folks to really think about if the things coming in are things that you need, things that you're using, or if they're just things that are adding to the pile of stuff you have to find for.
Very good point.
Dopamine rush. There's other ways to get the dopamine.
Right. You could also do like a blitz, you know, at the end of the day or at the end of the week, depending on how much stuff your family leaves around, do 10 minutes. Let's see how many things everybody could put away in 10 minutes. And the mindset of like, okay, it's only 10 minutes, I can do this, tends to help folks motivate to just do it and get it done. And then generally speaking, they're pretty surprised how much can be put away in a 10-minute period. So that's another way if you have multiple people in the house to try to keep things in order.
Can also use music. Leilani, could you share about the cleanup song?
Oh yeah. When I was little, they always did the clean up song. Which is just ingrained in my brain now to just put on a song or two, and then I use that time frame to help me like clean up in that time frame and do a quick tidy up of like surfaces and stuff like that.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, music can be a motivator in trying to get things done, beat the clock.
Especially ones that are like upbeat, the ones that like energize you and like help motivate you. Softer songs kind of don't do it as much.
Yeah, classical music may not be the way to go for this particular task.
Might depend on the person, but yes. And we got a question in the chat. I need lighting solutions for the corner seat of the sofa, especially because there's no window behind my sofa.
So there are a couple of options. You could do a 4-lamp space to pull the couch out a little bit and have a 4-lamp up in the corner behind it.
And there's some that kind of like sweep over pretty far.
Yeah, and some are
Can really
adjustable.
get into the space.
Yeah.
Wherever you need it.
Yep, so you can get a big arm, a little arm, an adjustable arm. That's one option. I have one corner, I'm not really lacking light, it's more of a decorative lighting thing, but I have a hook in the ceiling and 2 ball lamps that hang from that in that particular corner.
Recently I've seen, I haven't like tried it out, but there's like a rechargeable battery light that you can get onto anywhere on the wall. And then it's strong enough to be in regular lighting. So that could be.
So my bathroom in my shower, it's might as well be pitch black, even with the heat lamp and the regular light on. It's super, super dark. If I ever want to shave my legs, it's just kind of like a shot in the dark. So I got one of those and I mounted it up on the ceiling, and it even has a dimmer and everything. So if you're taking a bath, you can have all nice mood lighting. And if you're needing light in the shower, it goes really high. So those are a good option too. It even has a little remote. So if you wanted to put it on the ceiling above the couch, you could do that. If you wanted to put it on the wall, it doesn't necessarily have to be in reach because a lot of them come with remotes. And the one I have is also rechargeable, so it doesn't require batteries.
Very cool. Thanks for those ideas. Connie also threw out a great tip for picking up, and Connie says it's amazing how much can be picked up during a TV commercial. Thank you, Connie.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You don't have to watch the commercial.
Yep, everybody wins.
Even better. Well, I'm curious if other folks have questions about the living room, or if there are any other things that you use your living room for that we haven't covered so far.
So we talked about office, playroom, crafting or sewing.
Kind of fitness yoga area.
Mhm.
All right. Well, if that's it for living rooms, maybe we could scooch over to the dining room.
All right, we'll see you in a moment.
Okay, thank you. So they're going to relocate really quickly. But meanwhile, I'm curious if folks have any burning questions about the dining room as we're headed over there next. Ah, okay, great question, Kathy. How about eating in the living room? So I'm curious what people's thoughts are about that. I know I frequently do that. I'm guilty of doing that while watching the news, for example. We'll use our coffee table and then clean it up afterwards. But I'm curious how many other folks eat in their living room, and if you have any guidelines for yourselves or for your families. Peg, I saw your hand up. Oh, you're on mute.
I live with a young person who has no inhibitions about eating things left on plates on the table. She's 12, but she's K9, and so she has no inhibitions about things like that. So I have to make sure that there are no plates left on the table that she could get into, and so I make sure that's the impetus for me, is keeping it out of her reach.
That's a great motivator. That's also my impetus. I have a counter surfer also with 4 legs in my house, and so we have to be very careful about not leaving things out and putting anything that has food on it away. All right. Well, our team has relocated to the dining room, and thank you so much, Sharon, for letting us film in your house again today. You're all set.
All right, so kind of the same issues in the dining room as the living room. They see multi-purpose rooms. Dining room, depending on the layout of your house, could definitely be a huge drop zone. So depending on the things that are landing on your table, we talked about paper in the living room, concept in the dining room, having a place for the next, like just to my left here is the kitchen and it's open. So maybe at the end of the counter, you have your trays to sort your mail into until you're ready to address it. Otherwise, think about, again, just like the living room, what uses your dining room has. You know, are you going to be sewing in here? Do you need a space to put away craft material? And try to figure out like what's being left. So people are coming in and they're dropping their keys or mask or whatever it may be when they walk in the door in the night.
Speaking of drop, I think Jocelyn dropped her sweatshirt on that dining room chair. Those dining room chairs are big drop targets as well.
Not the drop zone, Jocelyn. It's not where this goes. We would hang this up in the front. We're in a closet. And it's down. So yeah, perhaps like having a little mounted key hook thing on your wall right inside the door where folks can hang up their keys instead of dropping things on the table. But I'm curious what folks are using their dining rooms for, because this is pretty standard dining room used for dining, right? We have a hutch and we have china. But I do know that Sharon sews in here. Everything is nicely tucked away and you would never know it.
I think some people host game nights or do puzzles.
Yeah. So if you do have a hutch or some kind of buffet or something, and you're able to store, that's excellent. I don't suggest buying a hutch for said purposes, because if you ever decide that you no longer want said hutch, it's very difficult to get rid of them, as some folks learn if they're doing right sizing, maybe moving to a smaller place. Nobody wants them anymore, so they're very hard to get rid of. Just as an aside, but yeah, like if you have a buffet or something and you don't have a ton of entertaining stuff that needs to go in there that can fit in the kitchen, that's a great place to keep things.
Or maybe use a sideboard instead of a traditional china hutch, because even Goodwill and Habitat for Humanity won't accept them for donation anymore. So unless you can think of a really creative reuse, like turning it into a wine rack or something, it can be tricky. Yeah. But what do we do with the contents of the china hutch? Let's say we need to right size and we've got some plated silver and crystal china. What are your thoughts about that?
If it is being right sized, stuff that we're not going to keep, depending on what it is, there are consignment resources that we can share with folks. There are gentlemen that specializes just in china. For certain things, you could sell back to replacements.com as well. And I would say, as you're doing your right sizing for folks that are in that stage, if you're thinking you're going to hold on to your china, try to keep in mind maybe you're not entertaining as much as you used to, or maybe you used to host big dinners, but now in your new place, you're going to have seating for 4, and you can right size down to place settings for 4 people.
The breaking up of a set can be hard for some people, but I think that really ends up being useful. Keep one or two or however many place settings you'll actually use pieces of it.
Or
You don't
dining room
need to-
chairs too. It's okay to break up those sets as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
and was handed down my grandmother's china, which was beautiful and like 14 karat gold trim and like lovely, but not my style, never going to use it, but it was also sentimental. I grew up eating off of it every single holiday, every single year. So me and my mom both kept a couple of small pieces from the set of china, just as a memory. And like I have a little teacup on my counter that I keep my cat's little medicine droppers in. So I see it every day, but I don't have this whole big set of china that I'll never use. And it, you know, having the memory is more important than having 20 pieces of china that are just taking up space.
And I feel like the dining room is also a place, or like the sideboard, that ends up having a lot of the like nice, entertaining stuff that we find that we'll never ever use. And then it's like, it's sad, it's not getting used. So realizing like, oh, well, I could just use these candles on a Tuesday. I could just use this china plate for my afternoon cookies, whatever. Like that, it is nicer to be able to actually use the thing, especially if you're not going to be able to like display it on your.
I'm a big fan of using things that you have and enjoying them. I don't like keep things in boxes and stare at them for life. My grandmother and her sisters, I grew up in a very, very Italian house, and we had the guest house and like fancy cloth napkins versus the everyday cloth napkins. And when I raised my son, I was the opposite. There was nothing in the house that could not be used. It's here to enjoy and to be used. So if you're holding on to things that are too nice for everyday use, I would question like, why is it too nice for everyday use? You deserve nice things. So start using your stuff.
Yeah, here's the nice towels.
Yeah, guest towels have always been silly to me.
And the little decorative soaps. Yeah.
Yeah, don't touch that soap. It's for guests. The guests would never touch it, right? It's a pretty little soap. Nobody's going to use it.
We have some comments in the chat. Peg says that Peg was lucky and able to pass along all of this. I'm assuming this by maybe China Hutch, China servingware, things like that. Okay, nodding to Peg's younger son and his wife. So it was a win-win. So yay, that's great. And Connie says that she uses her dining room also for short-term projects like income taxes, wrapping packages, things like that.
Yeah, and that works as long as your short-term projects don't turn into long-term piles. So if it's a short-term, like it's going to take a few days, then great. If it's a longer-term project, I would just say to try to set up in a way that you still have use of your dining room while the project is taking place. Like maybe certain parts of the supplies can be put in a bit at night so your dining room isn't completely out of commission, depending on the type and size of the project.
Sometimes when we do a puzzle, we'll put it on and move it to a different table. Yeah, I think that's probably pretty common, but you could do that with anything. It doesn't have to be a puzzle.
Yep. And then when you do that, you can flip it.
Nice. I like that idea to reuse a puzzle board for other things besides puzzles for different projects to bring them in and out of the room.
Mhm.
Nice. I'm curious what other things people use their dining rooms for, or if you have any sticky points in your dining rooms that you'd like to have us discuss. Okay, Karen writes, I don't have a large china hutch, but I have a smallish bookshelf in my dining area. So I mix the traditional keepsake pieces with books, which I love and use. So less traditional, but with a small space, more user-friendly. Great ideas, Karen. Thank you for sharing.
And that's a good point too. We don't have to follow rules of what goes in a space, right? If a bookshelf works for you in the dining room and you have more books than anything else, like go for it. People tend to think like, oh, this doesn't belong in here, but it belongs wherever it's useful to you. It's your home. You have to be comfortable. Things have to function well for you. And that looks different for everybody.
Yeah, if you don't eat in the dining room and you eat in the living room or in the kitchen, like it might as well be all this.
Right, and to your point, my dining room table is always a puzzle. Eat on the couch.
Yeah. Growing up, like we typically ate in the living room, but I remember the dining room table as a homework spot. So that's, there's a little bit of
Yeah, a lot of people use the dining room table for homework or maybe as their home office. Yeah. And maybe some similar tips would be like bringing things into the space and then taking them out at the end of the day too.
Yeah, I mean, or if you're using your dining room table primarily for other tasks like homework and taxes or office work, maybe instead of like having a floral centerpiece, you have like a lazy Susan with pens and different office supplies that are easy to access and also get put away so things aren't spread across the table all the time.
And Kathy writes that, so Kathy has a friend that uses the dining room for a family room now because they don't need the dining room anymore. They don't use it for that purpose. So yeah, that's great. Because why have spaces in our homes that we don't use or are just for display?
Exactly. No rules.
No rules, just your rules.
if your table had leaves that you didn't keep in it all the time, where would you keep your table leaves?
Hopefully we have closet space for them. I would not have space for it. I actually, because of that reason, so I am in a like fairly small apartment and I do like to entertain and cook for people. So I have a square dining room table that splits. So that works better for me being in a small space. I can still see 6 to 8 people in my apartment and then 4 people when it needs to be smaller for maybe just a small puzzle or something like that. There happens to be a closet here, which would be great for storing leaves. But I do see a lot of people keep them under their bed because it's so bulky.
That's a great idea to keep the table leaves under the bed.
And even if you have under bed storage, normally those bins are pretty shallow and you can set them right on top of the leaves so you can still have that space.
Some of our narrower table leaves that we could put just on the shelf under whatever's on the shelf, which can be a little bit difficult to get everything off and use them, but it works pretty well.
Mm-hmm. You have to get creative when you're in a small space or in a shared space.
So I'm curious what other questions or comments folks have about the dining rooms, any other sticky points. I did also want to share a tip that one of our clients or some of our clients have come up with this in the past. Once they get a surface clear, whether it's the coffee table, maybe it's the sideboard, the dining room table, they'll put a little note, or one client even had a nice little sign made and it said, keep this space clear, or one client just wrote no go exclamation point. So reminding them not to put anything on this cleared surface. And you can state it in a more friendly way too, whatever works for you and your brain and your household. But, just that little visual reminder that, hey, I worked really hard to clear off this surface and I'm not going to put stuff back on it.
Right. And if you're setting places for those things to go, if you have other people in the house, labeling different shelves and cabinets and drawers can be helpful. So when somebody goes to drop something because they don't know where else to put it, the more you can help them find a safer, happier place to put it away, the less likely they're going to be to drop it on the dining room table. So trying to have a home for everything is helpful. But I do like the sign idea. That's cute.
I find I have a tendency, or I would have a tendency to when I'm cleaning up and I find something that I don't know exactly where it should go, I just kind of move it somewhere else and then I move it somewhere else. And if I get myself a dedicated container that while I'm going through anything that I don't know exactly where it goes, put it in there, and that gives me a better sense of oh, these are the things I don't have homes for. Where could they go? And this is how much stuff doesn't have a home. That's good to know. Now I need to figure out where to put those things.
That's a really good idea.
And we've talked too with people who are saying they don't have a lot of time, clients who say that they don't have a ton of time to clean up, and having that container of things that don't have a home, and then having a container where you put all the things as you're going that do have a home, even if you don't have time or energy to put them into that, each thing into its home right now, then it's less overwhelming to have this, like, I know where all these things go in this bin. When I get a second, when I have some energy, I can start putting those things away where they go.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's kind of to the basket idea for family members in the living room, same kind of thing. I would just suggest doing it at least once a week so that the basket doesn't become overwhelming. You know, if you have a little basket of things that have to leave the living room and go to various other places in the house, and now it's overflowing to the point you can't even pick it up, that's when you run into trouble, and folks tend to like shut down and not want to deal with it anymore. So depending on how much stuff is being left throughout the house, I would say have it on a schedule where you're regularly doing what Karin suggested, taking those bins, emptying them, finding places for the things that don't have a home, and also letting other people in the house know where those places are.
Thank you for that. And if things feel overwhelming too, just put one thing away or two things away. And every time you pass the basket, maybe you put one thing away. Just break it down into whatever the smallest, most manageable piece is for you at that time, if you're feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I do suggest that to folks as well. You know, sometimes people are, you know, dealing with a depression or something stressful is going on and they just don't have the bandwidth to deal with the mess around them that they have created. So I'll just suggest every time you get up, put one thing away. Even if you're picking up one sock off the floor and putting it in a laundry basket, just one thing. And you'd be surprised over the course of a day how many things get put away without you having to stop what you're doing and try to motivate yourself to do a big cleanup.
And that combined with, like you were saying, like being really mindful about your subscription boxes or what you're buying or how much packaging comes into your house, like you're thinking about that ahead of time, like all of the stuff that I'm accumulating, and is there a way to accumulate less that doesn't have a place to go that I won't use, then it doesn't build up quite so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thinking about the inflow. And two, like when I'm out looking or I'm thinking about purchasing something, I think about where is it going to live in my home? How much maintenance will it need? Is this something that I need to insure, take care of? Kind of what is the whole big picture emotional labor behind this item and financial investment? You know.
I think living room and dining room type decor too, especially now, there's like really fast trends that happen. So you end up like, oh, I love the way that this, like, I don't know, distressed wood tray looks on the table. But I think if you like spend more time thinking about your personal style, what means a lot to you, like having your grandmother's teacup or having sort of a mix of things that you build up over time instead of like things from the dollar spot that like look nice, but maybe you're going to want a different, you know, key rack in 2 months or something.
Impulse purchases. Yeah. I think we're all guilty at times of that. But you know, like we're saying, trying to manage what's coming in certainly helps to keep the clutter down from the start so that you don't wind up overwhelmed.
So I'm curious if folks have questions about living rooms or dining rooms, or if maybe those aren't your problem areas. Do you have any other questions related to organizing around the home that we could answer for you today? And Gwen and Jim say thank you. They have to head out to a medical appointment, but they say thank you to you too. And they're looking forward to working with us on their garage next week. So we're looking forward to that as well.
See you soon.
When I come back from a doctor's appointment with a prescription, or when they send me my prescriptions, half of that can go right in the trash or the thread. I don't need it all. There's so much that comes, and I mean, it's hard to minimize that, but
I actually don't even take it when I go to the pharmacy. I'm like,
yeah,
please keep the paperwork in the bag. I do not need it.
Yeah.
And then I just walk with my little full bottle on my way.
If you get it in the mail, it automatically sends you a lot of paperwork. But
And Kathy had to leave as well and says thank you. Karen writes, this might be outside the scope of this call, but I think one of my biggest issues is coming to terms with the fact that I have the wrong furniture in storage because of moving and having two homes and going, two homes down to one home. Karen's gotten rid of the items that she could, but is struggling with looking at perfectly good furniture and needing to redistribute them and buy new, different stuff. So she keeps trying to make the furniture work, but it's just not working. So what thoughts do you have around that? And thank you so much, Karen, because that's a challenge that a lot of us have had or do have.
Yeah, the furniture definitely has to work for the space, and even if you love something, if it's not functional in your new space, there's honestly no point in holding on to it. I find furniture can be somewhat hard to sell, but Community Warehouse is a wonderful resource if you're willing to donate any of it. If you're not familiar, folks can go and basically shop for free when they're getting back on their feet and furnish their new home. So you would know it's going to a really good cause and it's not sitting in storage, it's actually helping somebody start a new life.
Yeah, it's like a furniture bank instead of a food bank. I know Karen is located in Central Oregon, so I'm wondering if there's a similar nonprofit out that way, but there's also Habitat for Humanity and other nonprofits as well, or giving things away to college students or friends. I know it can be hard to let go of sentimental items. Yeah. Oh, Karen says there is a nonprofit out her way called Furnish Hope and Home. That's awesome. Yeah. But how do we give ourselves that permission to let go of something, or do we do it over time because maybe we don't have the budget to go out and get a household, house full of new items, or even if they're new to us items?
Yeah, so I guess you would want to look at which pieces are causing the most trouble in your new space. Like if you have a huge coffee table that now you can't navigate your living room around the couch, that's probably going to be one of the first things you want to let go. I think size of furniture comes into play more than people realize because it can really reduce the quality of life if you're cramped in your space and you feel like you can't move. So that's one consideration. But I suppose it depends on what the issues with the furniture are. Like if you're having trouble with storage, like I said, there are storage ottomans, there are even couches that have storage within them. There's lots of different ways to create storage with furniture if you are in a smaller space. But I think, yeah, size of furniture is probably going to be one of the first things that come into play, but without knowing specifics about her home or what furniture is the issue, I'm not sure what else I can address.
And that can be another place where, even though it feels hard, like separating a set could be really useful. Like if you have 4 nesting tables, but maybe you could just keep one, and it's okay to break up the set. It's like you can give yourself permission for that. Or the sofa that matches the love seat, like maybe it's okay to have, a coordinating but mismatched chair and the love seat that you like and that go together well and fit in the space, rather than having to keep every part of a set.
Yeah, kind of the same thing as the china. We do have permission to let things go that are not serving us. It's hard, and I understand that, especially when you're looking at the money that you spent on it. But if you can shift your thinking to those items serving somebody better than they are serving you right now, I find that that's helpful in letting go.
Yeah, especially if you're paying for storage, because then you're not even getting to look at the things.
Yeah, and the money that you're paying for storage could be going towards furniture that actually works in your space.
Very good points. Connie, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just a comment. If people are getting rid of furniture because they're moving to a retirement community, they might want to check with the retirement community. When I moved here, I moved from a 2-bedroom condo to a studio apartment, but they had a resale shop within the facility. And I sold my dining room table, all my chairs, the side hutch, and another larger chair. And what's fun about that is that I know who bought my dining room table. Her name is Connie, and she lives in the building behind us. and her mother lives in the same retirement community. So it's almost like giving it to your kids. You know, it's passing it on within your community. But it also
think it is.
benefited the retirement community because they got that money instead of me. It was a donation to the retirement community for our funds. So I had no idea that that was available until I asked.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually was in another retirement community a week or two ago that had the same thing on a smaller scale, I believe. Like there was an area in the garage where there were like couches, lamps, tables with little price tags on them, and folks would go down there and shop. So that is something that is not widely considered, but is an option. So thank you for bringing that one up.
Well, the rest of the story is that they never throw anything away. They have volunteers that go to scrap, community warehouse, Bybee Lakes, R2 Dream. I mean, there's a list of about 20 volunteers that do nothing but repurpose anything that's left that's not sold. And once a year, we have a big, parking lot sale with the community when they have Sullivan Gulch, when they have theirs. The question was, where do I live? I live in Holiday Park Plaza, just east of Lloyd Center. And the Wise Buy shop, where all these things are sold, is open every day but Tuesday and Sunday from 1 to 3 to the public. And if you want to stop here before you go to Goodwill, we keep all the good stuff. From jewelry to furniture to paintings to household goods, anything that anybody's kind of gotten rid of for downsizing. And yeah, it's been very profitable for our organization. We have over 100 volunteers that work on the shop.
Wow, that's great. And it gives folks a sense of community and purpose as well. I love
Yeah.
that.
Come over and visit sometime.
Yeah, we would love to. Going back to Karen's issue with furniture not fitting in her new home, the main point is that size is the biggest issue. I do want to let you know, Karen, too, that there are furniture companies that specialize in furniture for smaller homes or for folks who are right sizing and moving to smaller spaces. One is Scott Director Furniture, which is based out of Beaverton. And I know there are other companies that specialize or have a line of furniture that's smaller as well. Or you could, shop at estate sales, garage sales, Habitat, other places too, until you find furniture that will fit better in your new space. And does anyone else have other ideas for finding furniture that fits your space better?
I think the more like kind of modular or mobile things are, I find it's easier for me to use them as different things and move them into the right spot for when I'm doing this project or when I'm doing that. But I think like multi-purpose, one piece that can serve many purposes is like the gold.
Agreed. Yeah, and I would say, just remember before you buy new furniture, really try to assess what each space is going to be used for so that you're finding furniture that is going to suit the need. If you do yoga in your living room, you can fit a bigger couch, maybe you want a smaller couch so you have more space to spread out. Just think about those things before you start shopping.
And if you are, I mean, like, this is like me, I like to find things at estate sales, thrift stores, like what you were saying. And if I try to keep measurements of my space, like stored in my phone, a picture of the measurements, so that way when I'm out, I'm like, no, it's beautiful, it'll fit. I have a sense of like, that actually won't fit on that wall, or I need to go, or I don't get sucked into getting a bunch of things that like wouldn't actually fit, or having to like run and hope that it's still there when I get back and have.
Thank you, Karen. That's a great tip. Something too, if you're doing space planning, it doesn't have to be fancy. You could just use some graph paper and, like Karen said, keep the measurements in your phone or keep that piece of paper with you. There are also free space planning apps that are available too. We could recommend one or two. And Connie put in the address for Wise Buys. I love that name in Holiday Park Plaza. Thank you for the address, phone number, and the hours. Connie will send that out in our follow-up email. I'm curious if folks have one more question for Jess and Karin today. Or if Jess or Karin, if you had any additional tips that you wanted to share.
Think I have covered mine. Digging through the filing cabinet.
I know one thing I learned about not too long ago was that IKEA has a program where you can sell furniture back to them. They'll take it back if it's gently used, and so that's a helpful resource to have because I know folks, a lot of folks have things from IKEA. Yeah.
I can't think of anything else for me.
Okay.
I think that's all we got.
Well, thank you both so much. So next month, on the first Tuesday of May, same time, 12 to 1, we're going to be focusing on bedrooms and closets. So if you have any burning questions about those, you can send them to us in advance. You can email us, text us, call us, whatever's easiest for you, or just bring your questions to our next Ask the Organizer. I'm having trouble speaking today. Coming up later this month in April, so the third Tuesday of every month, we also have a free, non-judgmental, completely supportive support group for people who are right-sizing and organizing, downsizing, decluttering, all of the above. It's called Right Sizing Rockstars, and you get a free 66-page workbook that was created by Miss Jess here with helpful tips, links to resources, and it goes room by room throughout the house. So you can bring your questions, bring your goals to that group. We're there to hold you gently accountable and check in with you the following month to see how it went. We're there to talk about sticky points, there to support each other, provide encouragement, motivation. So I just want you to know that that's a free resource as well, and it's the third Tuesday of each month. Is there anything that I'm forgetting to announce, you two?
Just that if you are interested in the Right Sizing Rockstars group, it is on our event page. You can go and register there, just for the same place we list the Ask the Organizers.
Yes, thanks, Jess. We do have an events page on the website, has all of our events there. We do have a number of events coming up where we're going to be talking about how to right size sentimental items. It's our mystery box presentation, and it's in person, it's interactive, it's fun. We'll be at Elsie Store on April 30th. And then we have a 3-part series in Vancouver coming up in May, June, July, and that's how to do right size paper, sentimental items, and then arts and crafts items. Karin will be talking about that specifically. So yeah, we have a lot of upcoming events, public free events. Well, thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you, Karin and Jess. Thank you to Jocelyn for filming and Sharon for letting us use your house. And if anyone on this call wants to let us use your house for a future episode, if you have a bedroom or a closet that you'd love some organizing tips on, let us know.
I could do a lot in a closet in an hour period, just so you know.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody.